It's week 11 in the CFL, and we have reached the halfway mark. Well, it's really not the halfway mark because there's 21 weeks, but we're just going to jump over the halfway mark this week. First, we have the BC Lions visiting the Calgary Stampeders. I still stand behind the statement that the Stampeders' record does not represent who they are as a team. However, as I mentioned, we're at the halfway mark of the season, and it's go time. This is when you really got to start putting money where your mouth is, especially with the divisional game this week, where if the BC Lions were to take this game, they would nearly even themselves out with your record. On top of that, this game is for the season series, which is currently split between these two teams. And with how things are going in the West, owning a tiebreaker could be the difference between playoffs and no playoffs for these two teams. This week's game will also see some notable receivers return to the game. For the Lions, Stanley Berryhill III returns, and for the Stampeders, Ajo makes his debut after being cut by the Saskatchewan Roughriders this past offseason for violating the CFL's gender-based violence and harassment policy. These two receivers certainly have the ability to change the offense for their respective team. Rourke will be happy to have one of his go-to offensive weapons back, and there is no doubt that Ajo will contribute to Calgary's already strong running game. The matchup I'm looking at this game is the Calgary run game against the BC run defense. Both the best in the league. I believe this is what controls the outcome of this game. If the BC Lions can contain Deirdre Mills, VA's pass game becomes a lot less effective, and BC could have the edge. The BC Lions have scored 33 points in both of the previous games against Calgary, but Calgary has scored 30-plus points in their last 8 games. This is certain to be a high-scoring game with a lot of back and forth, but I've got to roll with Calgary. They're at home, and they're the more established and consistent team this season. Next up, the Red Blacks head to Winnipeg in hopes of securing their first win of the season. This game is the tale of two tragic teams. A winless Ottawa team making changes left, right, and center, desperate to find a solution to their disastrous season. And the Bombers' story is not much different. This team is a shell of who they once were, and right now, honestly, they're giving me Phillip Rivers returning to the NFL at 44 vibes. Zach Collaros is set to return for the Bombers, which could possibly give them a bit of an edge. However, they weren't looking that much better as a team with him at the helm. Although the Red Blacks seem committed to staying winless, there is a phenomenon where a team's ability to win increases with every consecutive loss. With some coaches and all of their athletes playing for their jobs, desperation builds up and eventually tips the scale. Because of this phenomenon, in combination with the Bombers' terrible at-home record this year, I do believe the Red Blacks will take this game and lock in their first win of the season. Because with a schedule like theirs, if not now, when? Saturday football kicks off with the Argos visiting the Elks for what should be another big game and a big crowd at Commonwealth Stadium. The Argos may have soiled my 4-for-4 three-peat last week, besting the Stampeders with a last-minute field goal, but I don't think they've got that in them twice in a row. And I think this Edmonton defense will eat up the ball just as much as Calgary did. Elks take the win, and Chad Kelly throws a couple dimes to the Elks secondary. To finish off Week 11, we have the Roughriders heading to Hamilton to take on a surprisingly feisty Ticats team. Not that an almost win against the BC Lions right now is a great measure of success. I was pleasantly surprised to see how close that game was. At the end of the day, Hamilton will be fighting upstream for the remainder of the season without Bo Levi Mitchell. Wins aren't going to be easy to come by, and I think all you can ask as a fan of football is that they at least keep games tight and throw some points up on the board, which they've been doing a decent job at. After spending last week playing football in Saskatoon at the Women's Nationals tournament, I'm once again reminded of the football excellence that is Saskatchewan. And the Riders are certainly leading the way. I think the Ticats have the capacity to keep things interesting for a while, and the Riders will play with their prey a little bit before putting them out of their misery. Rough Riders take this one, no question. That's it for Week 11, and after missing most of last week's game due to playing in my own, I'm excited to dive back in. As always, thanks so much for listening. Please take the time to like, share, subscribe, and comment. A little bit goes a long way.